Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm sorry for the cattail. She just jumped up, and there she goes. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is John McDougall. I am the event coordinator at Murder by the Book, and we're super excited for tonight's event with HANK PHILLIPPI RYAN and Robyn Harding. But before I bring them out, I just wanted to make some general store announcement stuff, let you guys know what has been going on with us if you haven't been tuning into the virtual events. So we are open. If you have not come to visit us in a while, we have officially been open for browsing since October of last year, so almost a full year now. We are not limiting the number of people in the store, but we are asking them when you come in to please mask up. As you guys may know, we had a handful of in-store events on the calendar for September. Unfortunately, with spiking COVID cases, either we canceled or authors canceled. It was kind of a 50-50 even mix. We have canceled all of our in-store events, so we don't have anything in store. It is unlikely that we will do any in-store things this calendar year. We're hoping maybe in 2022 we will be able to get some authors back into the store for some in-store live events. But for the moment, everything is virtual. The last one that we have that was supposed to be virtual that was supposed to be in-store that we have converted to virtual is William Kent Krueger. So he is going to be chatting with us next Tuesday at 7 Central with David Hesco, Wanbley, Wyden. So we're super excited about that. Also, definitely come check us back out again next Thursday. We're going to be doing a event with to celebrate the release of the book Palm Springs Noir. And so we'll have the editor and a couple of the contributors there for that. So definitely come back and see that. As I mentioned, we are open for browsing, but we know there are some people who are going back to curbside pickup and not getting out and about as much. So if you prefer curbside pickup, you can just give us a call when you pull into the parking lot. We're happy to run books out to the car for you. We're happy to do that, whether there's a pandemic happening or not. So even if, when we get back to kind of more normal times, if you're just running late and you need to pick up a book, just call us. We're happy to run stuff out to the car for you. We are still not open on Sunday, so we're open 10 to 6 Monday through Saturday. And of course, we're always available at murderbooks.com. So I'm going to get our authors brought out for us tonight. I'm going to start with HANK PHILLIPPI RYAN. How are you tonight, Hank?
I'm great. How are you? I love how fast you talk. And what's your cat? And what's your cat's name? That was adorable.
So that's Juliet. So she's a calico. I've got two. I've got her and Calvin. He was just under my desk, so I'm sure he might pop up at some point too.
That's great. That's the suspense. We write suspense, so it's the suspense whether Calvin will show up. I love it.
Yeah. So when we used to do these, so now I'm in my library, but before I got this set up, I was doing them sitting on the floor in my living room at my coffee table, which was not good for my back sitting on the floor for an hour, but you would always just see his tail just at the background. So since I'm a little higher off the floor, we don't get to see him quite as much as we used to.
That's classic.
So we are here tonight to celebrate your new book, which just came out on Tuesday. And so that is Her Perfect Lie. So congratulations on the new release.
Oh my golly, I am so thrilled about this, with stars from Kirkus and Publishers Weekly, and Mystery Scene calls it a powerhouse of a novel. And I am floating. If I look tired, it's because I have not slept since Sunday. So that is the joy of launch week. I absolutely love it.
And I imagine we were kind of talking about this before we went live, but launch week is always a busy week for authors. But now that we're able to do these virtual events and you can do more stuff, I imagine launch week is even a bigger production than it was before.
It's kind of technologically, geographically fabulous, because I can be in North Carolina in the morning, and then at noon be in New York City, and then be in Maine, and then be in California. It all, just juggle the time zones. And it always seems like such a good idea when you plan it. Whose idea was this? But I am not complaining. Every single event has been amazing and a joy. And the warmth and the community. I mean, if there's one thing about the pandemic, you're so right. It has really brought us together as a reading and writing community, and that's fantastic. So I agree. Thank you. I love Her Perfect Life. Look how pretty that is. So nice and shiny. So I'm very excited with it.
Yeah. So for those of you who see, she is back, and there she goes again. So those of you who might not know who Hank is, who've just tuned in, so she's in Agatha, Anthony, Daphne, Macavity, and Mary Higgins Clark Award-winning author. Hank Phillippi Ryan is the USA Today bestselling author of 13 novels of suspense. She has also won multiple prestigious awards for her crime fiction, as we mentioned, including 5 Agathas, 4 Anthonys, and the coveted Mary Higgins Clark Award. She is also the on-air investigative reporter for Boston's WHDH-TV and has won 37 Emmys, 14 Edward R. Murrow Awards, and dozens of other honors for her groundbreaking journalism. National book reviews have called Hank a master at crafting suspenseful mysteries and a superb and gifted storyteller. Her novels have been named Best Thrillers of the Year by Library Journal, New York Post Book Club, Pop Sugar, Real Simple Magazine, and others. Her 2020 thriller is The First to Lie, and it garnered a star review from Publishers Weekly and was a nominee for the Anthony Award for Best Novel and the iconic Mary Higgins Clark Award. And as she mentioned, her most recent novel is Her Perfect Life, which is a chilling psychological standalone about fame, family, and revenge. It received, as she said, starred reviews from Kirkus and Publishers Weekly, which called it a superlative thriller. We're so excited to have Hank with us this evening to be chatting. And I can see now that I'm looking, like I see the Agatha teapots on the bookcase behind you.
Exactly. Subtly displayed behind me, right?
Yeah.
This is my office, though. This is where I work every day and have for the past, I don't know, since we lived in this house. So 25 years I've been working in this study, and I really love it. But I love the shelves, and I love the memories on the shelves.
Yeah. And we're also excited tonight to have Robyn Harding with us. So we're going to bring her out on the screen. How are you tonight, Robyn?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. So Robyn's most recent release is called The Perfect Family, and it just came out on August 10th. And so for those of you who may not know, Robyn Harding is the author of numerous books, including the international bestseller The Party and The Swap, which was an instant #1 Globe and Mail Toronto and #1 Toronto Star bestseller. She has also written and executive produced an independent film. She lives in Vancouver, BC with her family. And so, as we mentioned, her newest release is The Perfect Family. So while Hank and Robyn are chatting this evening, if you guys have questions for either of them, you can post those in the live chat on YouTube or the comments on Facebook. It can be questions about this new book, writing process, their previous books, any of that. Please post those in the comments and we will get to them in a little bit. But for now, I'm going to turn the chat over to Hank and Robyn and let them talk. And I will see you guys in just a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you love how our books are similar? Hold it up. It's so great. This is the perfect tour, you all. This is the perfect tour. Her Perfect Life.
I'm not feeling all that perfect after your bio and then mine.
Yes, but I am 30 years older than you are, so there's plenty of time. Plenty of time for that.
I better turn it up.
Oh my golly, thank you. We are as far apart geographically as anybody could possibly be. That's kind of crazy.
I know. I'm in Vancouver, BC, Canada.
And I'm in Boston. So we're all learning a lot about geography, right? During
Time zones.
So this is what you all, let me tell you what Robyn and I have decided to do this evening. We cooked up this scheme, which is sort of, well, because there are colleges in both of our books, differently and separately, we decided to have a pop quiz for each other. And Robyn and I each have a fishbowl full of questions, and we will fish the questions out randomly. So we don't know what we're going to be asking each other at the time, and we will just see what happens. Just see what happens. So Robyn, pull the first question.
Okay. Perfect one to start with. Tell me about your new book.
This is fixed, Robyn. This is totally.
Okay,
totally.
that one was fixed. That one was fixed, I'll admit. But the rest are going to be just complete.
The rest are okay. I would love to tell you about Her Perfect Life. There was a thing on Twitter that said, "Can you talk about your book? Tell about your book in 5 words." So the 5 words I came up with were sisters, betrayal, fame, guilt, and revenge. And that is essentially what Her Perfect Life is about. If I could tell you in 5 phrases, it would be a beloved reporter with a deep, dark secret, a missing college student, and that is not the secret, an anonymous source, a passionate clandestine weekend in Aspen, and a child's little pink suitcase that is surprisingly empty. So quickly, it's a high stakes, fast paced psychological thriller where two smart women face off in a cat and mouse game to prove their truth about a devastating childhood betrayal. But which woman is the cat and which woman is the mouse? The main character is Lily Atwood, a reporter in Boston, and everybody knows who Lily Atwood is, and that may be the problem. Because she has fame, she has fortune, she has Emmys, she's the single mother of an adorable 7-year-old daughter, and she also has a deep, dark secret. But the problem is Lily is always in the spotlight. So how do you keep a secret when people are always watching you? And Lily begins to learn that the spotlight may be the most dangerous place of all, and that there is no way to protect her perfect life. And that's what this is about. So I'm going to now pull a question again. Oh, how did this happen? Robyn, tell us what The Perfect Family is all about.
All right. Well, first, let me say I loved Her Perfect Life. Could not put it down. I was so excited. I got an early read. It was excellent. So brava. The Perfect Family is also about a family who give off the facade of perfection. So the parents have this beautifully restored character home in Portland. Their lawn is perfect. They have luxury cars. Their son goes to the best college. Their daughter's doing well in high school. From the outside, everything looks great. And then seemingly out of the blue, their home is attacked one night by vandals. And it starts with throwing eggs, and then it escalates to fruit, slash tires, smoke bombs, and these attacks become increasingly disturbing and ultimately very violent and dangerous. And these people that live in this perfect home are all keeping secrets. The mom, the dad, the son, and the daughter each have their own secret that they're keeping from the outside world and from each other. And the reader's job is to figure out whose secret is behind these attacks on their home.
One of the many things I loved about The Perfect Family is how you're such a suspenseful writer. And you start out with this picture of perfection, and there's a little twinge in the edge, and then another twinge in the edge, and a little sort of indication that something might be wrong, then another little indication that something might be wrong. And the reader is just pulled into this story. It's fascinating, it's devastating, it's riveting. It'll make you not look at your neighbors the same way ever again. Can I just ask you, where did the idea come from? Why did you decide to write that?
So the idea came from, sadly for me, a real life experience, which we might want to talk about later. But yeah, we actually used to live across from a playing field, like a big soccer field. And kids at night would hang out there, drink beer, smoke pot, get up to whatever they got up to. And they started to harass a few homes on the street right across from the park. And we were one of them. And it never escalated to anything like it does in The Perfect Family. But it was unnerving because these were teens out in the night with, undeveloped frontal lobes and risk assessment. And so I was like, God, how bad could this get? And it never did, luckily. But the other thing that was so weird is we never found out why. So this is where I was like, okay, let's think of a family who had reasons why and secrets, and yeah.
Only a devious thriller writer like you could decide to make that into a marvelous book instead of being upset constantly about it. You took control of the situation. That's great. And it's
luckily it stopped, but
still so sinister and creepy.
Where did you get your idea?
Well, the other thing that's so interesting about it is how similar the genesis of these stories are, because it was from something that happened to me as well. When I was anchoring the news in Atlanta years ago, it was Saturday night, and I had just I was just finishing the news, and I drove home, and your adrenaline is all up and the news is over. And I turned the corner, drove down my street, and I saw on my street was chock full of police cars with blue lights flashing. And I thought, oh, maybe there's a crime scene. You know, I've covered a million crime scenes as a reporter. Now it looks like it's close to home. And it's turned out that it was my house. The crime scene was my house. And I leaped out of the car and ran to the police officer. And I said, one of the many, and said, I'm Hank Phillippi. And he said, I know who you are. And I said, well, what happened? You know, that's my house. And he said, I know. He said, we caught a guy breaking into your house. That's him in the cruiser over there. And I said, what? And he said, he told us he broke into your house because he knew you were live on television. And so he knew you were not at home.
Wow.
And it was just so chilling because that got me thinking about the vulnerability of the spotlight and how, as a reporter, as an anchor person at that time, people knew where I was and knew where I wasn't. And that story, that vulnerability, just stayed with me all these years. And that's what emerged to be sort of the core of Her Perfect Life.
Wow. Wow.
Isn't it funny that we both had house things?
Yeah, that's so crazy. Okay, I'm going to pick another one.
Okay.
All right. Okay. In Her Perfect Life, Lily has created a public image of perfection. In The Perfect Family, the Adler family is presenting a perfect facade to their neighborhood. Why do you think we are fascinated, even delighted, by the downfall of perfect people?
You know, that is the question. That is such a good question, because one of the things I learned in writing about Lily, who is a local celebrity, and she goes to the grocery store and people know who she is. And she goes to the grocery store with her daughter and people ask questions of her daughter and people want to take pictures with her daughter. And Lily has to protect her daughter. And it's very, very complicated because Lily has chosen the spotlight, but her daughter has not chosen the spotlight. Right. That's the danger. So what I did learn in writing Her Perfect Life is that how risky it is to write about fame, because people think, why are you whining? You're famous. You know, they would say to Lily, what could possibly go wrong? You're famous. You have celebrity. You have anything that anybody could ever want. And that underside of celebrity, Lily learns. I do think that scandal and that is what I'm trying to say how to put this. The weapon that the public has against a celebrity is word of mouth. It's gossip. It's social media. And Lily knows that she has this secret. And if the secret emerges, her career is over. Her relationship with her daughter is over. And she cannot come back from that. Yeah. So, but everybody wants to know what Lily's secret is, and she must protect it. So the stakes are so high for her. And I think there's this envy that people have of something that they don't know about, something that they think, oh, she's so perfect. I mean, Lily's fans made a hashtag for her, Perfect Lily. Imagine living up to that. So I wanted to reveal the pressure and the stress and the impossibility of being perfect and how we don't really know what's going on in someone else's life. We just think we do. And that's really terrifying.
Of course.
So we do that too.
I have to ask though, so is that your experience? You are recognized when you go to the grocery store. Do you feel like you, Hank Phillippi Ryan, are sort of on all the time in public?
You know, I've been on television in Boston for 30 some years. So sure, there are times that I get recognized. But and sometimes people, strangers, will say to me on the street, oh, you're Hank Phillippi Ryan, I love you. And that's great. And it's weird, right? I don't know that person, but they feel that they know me. And that's great. And I have asked for that. I've said, tell me your secrets, tell me your story, give me a story idea. But also all of those Emmys behind me represent a secret that I told that somebody didn't want me to tell. And as a result of telling that secret, I made an enemy. You know, I changed laws and changed lives. Our stories got millions of dollars in refunds and restitution for consumers and people's homes out of foreclosure and people let out of prison. But they also made enemies. And people don't think about that. So the glory of doing a good job is tempered a little bit by the threats and the stalking and the phone calls and the harassment and the knocking on my doors and the following me and knowing where I am. And so when really quickly, when I was just starting in television, I was at the laundromat and somebody came up to me and said, "Aren't you Hank from television?" and started telling me their life story. And I went home and I whined to my mother. I called my mom and I said, "Can you believe somebody talked to me in the laundromat?" And she said, "You chose the spotlight. Welcome to the spotlight, honey. And I never want to hear you complain again."
Wow.
That's what this book is about.
Yeah.
But neighbors, you know, the grass is always greener on the Joneses side of the fence. And when we see someone's beautiful house, you know, do we think, "Oh, see, their lawn is a little bit brown"? Tell me.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just have to quickly say, you know this about me already, that I studied journalism, and I'm so in awe of you because I was like, I couldn't hack it. I couldn't take the enemies. I'm not hard hitting enough. I'm just too soft. So anyway, you're amazing. But as far as a family, the neighbor, everyone's got one. It's not my house, I'll tell you that right now. I mean, I think my house is perfectly pleasant and lovely, but it's not the house on the block that looks pristine and perfect because I'm just frankly too lazy to keep it that way. But I think that when we talk about perfection and that wanting to see the downfall and see the people that are making maybe people in the neighborhood feel less than or feel like they need to keep up with them and putting that pressure on, I think there is an element of schadenfreude. Sure. Where, you know, the German word for, what is it? I don't wish you ill, but I will take pleasure in your misfortune. And so I think there's a little bit of that in neighborhoods when people start to fall for the pressures of, you know, I mean, recently my kids went off to college, and that is a really intense time. There's a lot of comparison. There's a lot of measuring for the kids, for the parents, all that kind of stuff. So I think that, I think that is unfortunately something that kind of infiltrates so many levels of society and families and people.
And as you pointed out in your book, you know, the mom in the book is so careful about her image, and the father in the book is so careful about their image. And one little thing that happens could shatter that. And then if they bring on their own destruction, I mean, you talk about being, you know, happy when somebody else fails. What if you're the person who fails?
Right.
And that's what our stories are both about. Not
the people who fail. Yeah. That's right.
Exactly. Or might fail or cannot possibly afford to fail. And what happens when your world comes tumbling down?
We can't keep up that facade and have to be honest and authentic, right?
Exactly. All right. So here's a question for you. I'm gonna pull a question for you. What was the highlight of your screenwriting career and the highlight of your novel writing career?
Okay, so the highlight of my short-lived screenwriting career is I did get a film produced, and it premiered at TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival. And we went out, we flew from Vancouver. My mom came with me, my husband, and my daughter. My son had just started college. And we got to go to a glamorous party and the premiere. But when I was there, I sort of felt like, you know, TIFF is where all the Oscar movies come out. And so I kind of felt like the little sister movie, you know, it was like a comedy drama. So it was a cool experience, but the highlight was, it was selected as the closing gala film for the Miami International Film Festival. And they flew a few of us down there, including the screenwriter, which apparently they never bring the writer. And it was just so glamorous. It was like in this old theater that was, you know, turn of the century, and there was a red carpet and there was photographers. I mean, no one knew who I was, but it was so wonderful. And everyone was laughing. It was like a packed theater. Everyone was laughing in the right places. And it was just a really, really amazing experience. And I had really never been to Miami. I'd just kind of been through the airport, and I loved it. And it was my little taste of glamour. And then,
let me just interrupt you to ask, what's the name of the movie?
The movie is called The Steps, as in a step family. And I think it's on Amazon. It was on Amazon recently. It stars James Brolin, Jason Ritter, Christine Lahti, and Emmanuel Shrieky. Yeah, so that was, it was
fantastic. And when you went to Miami, you sure didn't feel like the little sister movie.
No, we didn't. We felt really, we got like so much love there. It was really a cool experience. And then as far as my novel writing career, when I ask you this question, it's going to take hours. Because well, The Perfect Family got 2-starred reviews. I know you get starred reviews all the time, but I've only had them once before. And so this was really like unexpected, out of the blue. It was very, very validating and a wonderful feeling. And I'm so grateful. And then the other highlight would be when The Swap hit #1 in Canada.
I remember that. That is such a good book. I didn't know you when I started reading The Swap. This was just came out of the clear blue. And I thought, well, I'll just see how this is. And I opened it, and I think I just stood there for about half an hour, just rooted to the ground, reading that book. And then when The Perfect Family came out, then I was grabbing it. Then anything you write, I will just instantly auto buy, because you are just completely amazing. So sinister and so tricky and so unique and such a good writer. You should look for The Perfect Family. It is surprising. I mean, there's an earring element. The earring just killed me. So I won't say anything more. I won't say anything more about that. All right. So
now I have to ask you the same question, except I want to hear, what is the highlight of your journalism career and the highlight of your novel writing career?
The highlight of my journalism career, there are a lot. But at one point we did a series of stories about problems in the mortgage lending and home improvement contracting business that resulted in 3 new laws being passed in Massachusetts to prohibit the practices that we discovered. And we got people's homes out of foreclosure. We got banks to give people their homes back. Mm-hmm. And that, I drive down those streets now and I say, the Smiths are living there because of our story. The Joneses are living there because of our story. And that took a year to do the story. It took suing the state to get documents. It was an incredible amount of work for just a glorious amount of results. And that was great. But, when you ask what my best story is, I think, I don't know, I haven't done it yet. There's another one around the corner.
Wow.
As a novelist, and we also got we found out that there were thousands of calls a year to 911 where the emergency responders, police and firefighters, were sent to the wrong address thousands of times a year.
No
one in the state had kept track of it. And I had to sue to get the documentation about that. And the documents arrived at my house finally, after a year of fighting, arrived at my house in a big cardboard box, which it looked like somebody had just taken 6,000 documents and pushed them into the box and said, like, hey, sister, here you go. You want documents, you got documents. And I spent the weekend sorting the documents city and town by city and town on my living room floor. There were thousands of them, 351 cities and towns, and thousands of discrepancy reports of mistakes in 911. At the end of the weekend, I had sorted them all. I was the only person in the world that knew which cities and towns had the most 911 problems. And I had so many paper cuts on my hand from sorting the documents that there was blood on the documents.
Oh my God.
The producer and I always say to each other, if there's blood on the documents, there's a good story.
Yeah.
Just like writing a manuscript, blood on the documents. And I'll tell you quickly, as an author, I have to say that one of my favorite moments was I was at a conference sitting at a table, and someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, could you sign my book? Could you, she was bringing my book for me to sign for her. And I turned around and it was Sue Grafton.
Oh,
how I burst into tears. And luckily someone was there to take a photo of that. So you
Oh.
see this just joy and shock on my face, and Sue just laughing and laughing. It was really pretty wonderful.
Did you post that when she passed away?
Yeah.
I feel like I remember that story. That's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, what a moment.
Thrill. What a
All right,
thrill.
I'm picking one for you.
Okay.
All right, so you can see that it's random, you all. Uh-oh. If you were stranded on a desert island with a TV and one TV series, what would it be? I guess you have electricity also.
Yeah, I know. And a blender and yeah. I'm gonna have to go with the best TV series of all time, The Sopranos. I've watched it through twice. I'm sure I could watch it another. How many years am I on this desert island? I could probably watch that over and over.
You always see something new.
Yeah, it's just such.
The Sopranos or The Wire, one of those.
Yeah, I'm heavily Sopranos personally, but what about you?
Well, The Sopranos, definitely. There's the Breaking Bad and
Breaking Bad
and The Wire. I think those are of that kind of genre of television show. We could talk about The Twilight Zone. I mean, that's also up there. But I wouldn't want that only The Twilight Zone on a desert island, because that would be, is it a desert island or is it a deserted island?
Oh, if it's got electricity, maybe it's deserted.
This is two writers talking, right? We have no idea. And what was the other part of the question? What series would it be? Okay.
I think we got that one. Okay, I've got one, and I just fished it out, and it's a fun one. Okay. What is your astrological sign, Hank?
My astrological sign is Libra.
Oh, and what makes you a quintessential Libra? I'm a Libra also.
Well, that's good and bad, right? I don't know that I am senior Libra. You understood it.
I totally got it.
I am a perfect Libra in every way. First of all, being a reporter, it's good for a Libra because you can see both sides of every story and you want both sides of every story. Being a writer is good for being a Libra at some point because I can see all the possibilities of what might happen, good and bad, right and wrong, all those kinds of things. The bad part about being a Libra, I guess, is that it's really often hard to make a decision because I can just talk myself into anything and then talk myself right out of it and talk myself right back in it. Are you like that too?
I'm exactly like that. I was going to say the exact same thing. It is great because I see all sides. I don't make a decision until I examine all sides, but then that examining can take weeks before I can finally go, okay. But once that decision is made, I know that I have done my due diligence. But
exactly.
Yeah, like my husband finds it a bit paralyzing that it takes me that long to come to a conclusion. But
I know one day I was out in our garden and I was looking at our tulips and I started wondering whether the tulips wanted to be the one that was picked or wanted to be the one that stayed in the garden. I just thought you have lost your mind.
So what day is your birthday?
October 17th. What about you?
October 3rd.
We have to sell it. See, we have the perfect tour and we'll have the perfect birthday tour. I like it.
The Libra birthday tour.
Yeah, yes and no. Okay, here's one for you. That's two. I'm going to ask that later. I get one mulligan, right? What is the first thing you remember writing?
Oh, the first thing I remember writing, and I remember it so well, was in 3rd grade. I wrote this like spooky story, and I did this little cop-out ending where I was like, I don't know how to end this story. And it was like, wake up, Susie, it's all a dream. One of those, the Dallas thing. But anyway, my teacher, my grade 3 teacher we say grade 3 in Canada, 3rd grade teacher, was so impressed with it that she hung it in the hallway outside the principal's office with this cover on it, a story by Robyn Harding when I was like 7 or 8. And I was mortified. I was so embarrassed. Like, she didn't ask me. She just put it out there. And at my school, in a small town in northern British Columbia. It was not cool to be a good writer. It was cool to be like good at dodgeball, you know. Yeah. I was like, oh, and I remember like the coolest guy, Darcy Matula, who was so good at dodgeball. And I remember him reading it and going, it's not that good, and walking away and being mortified. I still remember it.
Oh my golly, that's so formative. And it's also so revealing, because some kids would have been proud of that and happy with that. But at that age, we just want to be like everybody else.
Exactly. I just wanted to blend in. And yeah, like I got to say, like, I'm comfortable there now. But when I first published, it was very awkward feeling for me.
When I was in school, in middle school, I got voted most individual. You know, that is horrible. Individual, when, you know, as you're saying, he was like everybody else. And I thought, wow, that means most weird, most misfit. They put my picture in the school paper upside down to show how weird I was. That was my teenage mortification.
Oh my God.
Like your story.
Oh, funny. What was the first thing you remember writing?
Actually, the first thing I remember writing, it's weird, but it was in high school, and I fell in love with Shakespeare in high school, and I wrote a paper about Hamlet, some imagery in Hamlet, and I worked really hard on it. And I think it was the rat and mouse imagery in Hamlet, the rodent imagery in Hamlet. There's a lot. I was so proud of this, and I turned it in with the title. And my beloved English teacher, Mr. Thornburg, who I dedicated my first book to,
oh wow,
gave me my paper back with an F on it because I had titled it Hamlet. And he said, I don't think this is Hamlet. Come back with a better title. And Robyn, haven't we been looking for better titles ever since?
Can't get much better than Hamlet.
No, well, I don't know. Anyway, let me see. There's one for you. Or are we on?
It's my turn.
Okay, good. Somebody knows what we're doing.
Okay, I think. Was there something in your book that surprised you?
Everything in my book surprises me. Everything in my book surprises me because I don't use an outline. So I have no idea what's going to happen next. Wow. So the only way, I love your face. The only way I know what's going to happen is I get to this very computer and write the next sentence and the next paragraph and the next scene. And that's what gets me to the computer, is I think, ooh, this is kind of a good story. I wonder what's going to happen. So everything is a surprise. The twists are a surprise. The endings are surprising. I don't even know who will be killed, and I don't know who did it. I don't know anything about it when I go in. So just like working on a news story where I don't know the ending, I don't know the ending of my book. So when people say, wow, the surprises in Her Perfect Life, you really surprised me. I'm like, yeah, wasn't that a surprise? You know, I surprise myself. I surprise myself every time. So that's a great question because everything is a surprise. Do you outline?
That's amazing to me. Yeah, I do. Not detailed, but you know, for me, screenwriting really informed how I write thrillers because structure is such a part of it. Everything kind of has to happen at a certain point within a movie. And, you know, I've read lots of books on story, and they actually say that this is sort of an inherent thing in human beings, is that we have been telling stories in this kind of 3-act structure since we were sitting around campfires as cavemen. And so it kind of becomes, it's sort of innate in us. I'm sure when you're writing, it's just sort of inherently coming out of you. But I actually use sort of just a rough framework from screenwriting and write just to those plot points. So I do know certain twists and when things should happen, but I will often change who's the baddie or who's the, you know, that kind of thing. I'll think I'll know, and then I'll go, no, that's not who it's going to be, and I'll change it. But I mean, I'm in awe that it works so well, and you just are just like, what's the word, channeling it or something.
No, no. I mean, it sounds nice when it's over, but it's not that fun during it. You know, it works out so well is all in your point of view. But it is the way I do it, and it has worked for, knock on wood, for all these books. But every time I write a book, I think this is going to be the time it isn't going to work. This is going to be the time I can't do it anymore. And I say to my husband, I don't know what happens in this book. I don't think I can do it. And he says, you always say that. And I say, but this could be the time. This could be the time that I'm really right. And he says, you always say that too. Do you have those doubts? Do you have those times when you're writing?
And it's funny because my husband always says to me too, I'm almost done. And I go, I don't think it's very good. And he goes, you always say that. And I go, do I really always say that? And he goes, yes, you do. And then I'm like, hopefully it is okay. Because like this book, The Perfect Family, you know, it got starred reviews. I completely thought it was terrible. And I think it was because I was writing it during the very early days of the pandemic when we were so confused and frightened and stressed. And it was hard to write during that time, for me anyway. And I know some people said they really love to immerse themselves in their book. And I eventually got there, but for a long time, it was very hard for me to put my brain into something that was in some ways less dramatic than what was happening in the real world at the time, right? So perhaps I felt like it didn't measure up to a global pandemic. I thought, oh, maybe this isn't heightened enough, or what, I don't know. It was just a lot that was going on. But yeah, obviously I feel happy with it now.
I told you it was good, Robyn, when I read it. I was just transported by how good The Perfect Family is. So don't even give it another thought. Don't ask me, ask the starred reviewers. You know, that's what happened. And it was interesting because in the pandemic, I was really early on in Her Perfect Life too. And I can tell you it was chapter 15 when the pandemic hit. I really know that. And I spent a while thinking, why am I doing this? This is crazy. I'm writing entertainment. I'm writing something that people are that's commercial fiction. I better go watch the news. I better stock up on aluminum foil. You know, I don't know what's going to happen. The world's going to end. This is too scary. I'm not going to do this. And also I was doing the news at the same time, which was sort of infusing me with fear every day. But then I realized that this is why we do this. This is why you and I tell stories. This is why stories exist, is to take us away from our fear, to let us solve someone else's problem, to let us live in someone else's life, and to take us away. This story, just as you were talking about around the campfire, that's what we were doing. And when I remembered why I loved it, and I remembered that I chose to be a thriller writer with agency, you know, with some intent, and that whatever was going on in the outside world, this is where I belonged, and this is what I was going to do. And I sort of got my writer brain back. But I so agree with you. I 100% agree with you that it was definitely a journey. Definitely.
It was. But I feel exactly the same, and so grateful for the things that took me away. You know, TV and books like yours, and so many wonderful thrillers that took me out of the real mess and into someone else's mess that was so diverting and engaging and entertaining. So
exactly. What would we do without books and bookstores? Love this.
Oh.
I know that our time is up. We have you guys want to stay for much, much longer, because we have but I wonder if some of the people who are listening tonight have questions, and we would love to take those if there are any ready. If not, we have a lot.
Yeah.
So there are some. So since you guys have been both talking a little bit about kind of how the pandemic had impacted you kind of while you were writing these books, now that you're potentially, in theory, working on something else that's like your next project, how has the pandemic approached how you're working on your next project? Let's start with Hank.
I was just going to say, Robyn, go ahead.
Phew, thanks.
Okay. The pandemic has affected the way I'm writing my next book, which I'm on word number 62,492, which is really great. And I'm really on time. If this is June, let me just put it that way. because of all the things that I'm doing otherwise, because of the access to the internet and access to events and responsibilities that I have that I didn't have before, I'm really having to learn to focus and carve out my writing time in a more active and strong way than I did before. I honestly every day I make a schedule of what I'm going to do at what time, or else I just won't get everything done. That's kind of a nutty way to live. Also, I have no idea what day it is half the time. So it's just another day, another day, another day. But I want to make it clear that I do this with much joy and much love. And the idea of having to juggle, I think every day I think, it's so scary out there. And I am so lucky to be able to do this here in this little room in my little house with my little husband in the little garden. I just count my blessings and just persevere. How has it changed for you, Robyn?
Yeah, I think that would be similar. My book came out a little while ago now, about a month ago, I guess. And same thing, I've never had a pub week like that because, like I said, I live in Vancouver. We don't, there's bookstores, of course, and there's a few events, but Canada's a big country, so spread out. We just don't really do this tours like you do. So normally I would be like, yeah, I have a launch party, it'd be fun, and then I get back to work. But now, because everything's moved online, I had a very, very busy, probably a taste of the life of Hank Philippi Ryan. And I was like, oh, but I'm writing something else. And it was it has been very, very intense. But again, so great to be able to engage with readers that I never got to really do before, and bookstores and stuff. It's been really good.
You're so right. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see kind of once we're able to start doing some in-store stuff again and things start to get back to whatever the normal touring is going to look like, how we can still be able to do virtual stuff and do hybrid events so we can still connect. Because like you said, it's been great to get to connect with readers. About a third of what we've done historically at the store has been signed copies from events. So there are people that have been buying signed books from us for years, but have never seen a Murder by the Book in-store event. So it'll be really cool to be able to do some of that both and still kind of keep this community that we've been able to build through all of this.
So you're still going to do online events like this? Because we're gonna
try to. We haven't quite figured out like logistically how it'll work. One of the reasons I know like Poison Pen does theirs, they live stream a lot of theirs, but we've also heard from some authors before too that sometimes there are things like you might have some TV news that you can't officially announce yet, but you could potentially mention to a bookstore crowd if it's not being like broadcast because maybe the contract's not signed. So sometimes there are some little things like that maybe people don't talk about if they know that there's a camera on. So we've even been playing with the idea of potentially maybe we can broadcast the author talk, but then when it's time for the Q&A, maybe that's just something that's special for the people that have come to the event. So there are lots of options that we can play with. So we're really excited to see kind of what that might look like when we can start doing some in-store stuff again.
That's great. That's fabulous.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So Becky wants to know, she is curious if you guys have any input into cover design.
Oh, Robyn, talk about that gorgeous primitive art cover.
I'm so delighted with this cover, and I love yours as well, Hank. And I don't know if people can probably not see it here, but this perfect little doll's house has a tiny little broken window, which is just the pièce de résistance on this cover. So I was literally talking about this today on a podcast, and I had the same question. And I said, I don't know about you, Hank, but when I get that email, here's your cover, it's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And you're just like, oh, crossing your fingers because you just want to love it, because you don't want to be that author, right? Who says, I don't like it, it's not working, it doesn't, and I've had to do that before. Only once. Usually I love it. And it was really tricky. And then I do think you get to a point where the battle is lost. At the end of the day, you only can kind of give your input, and I think they will try to make you happy to a point, and then you sort of have to go, okay, let's just find something we can both live with.
And you have to figure they know what they're doing. They're not going to give you a cover that they think is bad. So
no, but I did have one situation where I just couldn't, and my agent agreed, and like my friend, I thought, well, maybe it's just me. Like, I don't totally trust my own opinion. I'm a Libra, right? I was like, let me get everyone else's opinion. And then no one was agreeing. And it was like, oh God, and we care so much. And we pour so much into a book. And then I thought, well, maybe no one cares as much as I do. So anyway, but at the end of the day, you know, they're the professionals, and I know they want to make us happy, but they're doing what they think is right for the business and for selling your book.
Yeah.
But so when you got the email that said your cover for The Perfect Family and you click on it, then what?
Nailed it. And the swap, like I was just so like right away, and it's just overjoyed to see how great when they totally hit it out of the park like that. Super happy.
I mean, it's like, you know, American art, primitive American art almost. A museum painting is what that looks like. But then that little crack in the window is.
So yeah, they did such a great job. Do you love your cover too?
Well, you don't talk about museum art. I mean, look at this.
Oh,
This is the girl with the pearl earring. If I ever saw it,
yeah, she's
don't you think? And I had asked them for enigmatic, mysterious, elegant, classic, and I said I want it to be a jewel. You know, when you walk into Murder by the Book, that you see this and you think, oh, I need to touch this book.
Yes.
And ooh, it is. I gasped when
It's fabulous.
The secret of this cover, though, is when you look at it, and I know you will. No pressure. It's just our career. Her eyes are green. And in the original cover, they were blue. And I said to the art department, Katie Klimowitz is the artist the genius artist at Forge who did this. And I said, can you make her eyes green because it's important to the story? And she just went, poof, and they're green. So when you see this, you'll see that her eyes are green. So
was she Lily in your head?
I'm not sure. It's such a good question. I think she's meant to be Lily, but she could be Greer very easily, and she could be Cassie very easily. Right. So I think it's up to the reader to decide who this person is.
I took her as Lily, but
okay,
that's me.
I also think we need to take a moment and appreciate, while Hank is doing such a lovely job of vanning her cover for us, that her manicure matches the book cover. I think we just need to acknowledge this.
Thank you. Well, the book cover matches the manicure. That's what. Yeah. I said, can you make it red? So. Yeah.
So we talked about covers. One thing that I'm curious about, especially, you know, as we talk to writers who do kind of suspense and thrillers, about titles, because titles are so tricky, especially for the types of books that you guys write, where the titles are usually only a couple of words, but they have to be a couple of words that somehow convey the story, but also not the same couple of words that other people have used. And I think you guys are a great example, because Her Perfect Life and The Perfect Family both have the word perfect, but they both tell very different stories. So can you talk a little bit about the title process?
Go ahead, Robyn.
You start this one.
Okay, so I'll tell this quickly. Her Perfect Life was not the original title. Some of my books, The Other Woman, totally, that's the only thing that could possibly be. Primetime, that's the only thing that could possibly be. The Murder List that won the Anthony, I had the title for that book before I even had the story. I just thought, oh, that's my book. But Her Perfect Life started out, well, the essence of Her Perfect Life was Lily Atwood, who wants people to tell her their secrets so she can put them on TV. So she has people call her, tipsters call her. And at one point in the book, the tipster starts, her anonymous source starts telling her secrets about herself. So instead of telling the secrets about someone else for Lily to put on TV, the source is telling Lily secrets, her own secrets about her own life. So I had called it The Next Caller, because you never know what the next caller is going to say. And I thought that sounded nice and sinister. And my editor said, yes, that sounds nice and sinister, but that's not the title of this book. And so thank you. So as I was writing the book, I wrote something about how would she protect her perfect life, and that she was called Perfect Lily, #Perfect Lily, by her fans. And I thought, come on, Hank, this is the book, Her Perfect Life, Her Perfect Life. But Robyn's word is not her, it's the, which is a completely different aura of the book. How did you come up with your title?
So very similar story in that was not the title. I actually wanted to call it Mischief.
Oh.
which I thought was ominous and creepy. But again, the business side of it comes into it because they wanted me to have the blah, blah, blah as my title because I've had the party and the arrangement and the swap. The only one that wasn't was Her Pretty Face, which was my follow-up to the party. So they said my brand is kind of the titles. And they actually came up with The Perfect Family. And I was like, it works, it fits. It's different than the direction I was focusing more on what was happening. And they were focusing on these people with the secrets. So
and they're both so ironic and both so cynical, and both so impossible.
Right.
The whole story is in that title.
Yes, exactly.
So we've got a couple of similar questions. So is there anything that you have read lately that you recommend? But Christina has made it a little bit more specific. She says, is there anything that you've read recently that's just kind of blown you away and potentially maybe giving you a new perspective on the genre itself? So we can kind of do two-part. Anything that you read lately that you've loved, and is there anything that's just kind of like blown you away? Let's start with Hank.
Oh gosh, every time I get this question, I say to my husband, the next time someone asks me this, I'm going to be prepared. And then I will tell you a couple of them. All Her Little Secrets by Wanda Morris is sort of The Firm meets The Other Black Girl. It's terrific. It comes out in November. Love. My Sweet Girl by Amanda Jayatissa, which came out this week. Amanda's from Sri Lanka, and it is the most creepy, haunting, unbelievable. It is really a marvelous story. And I just read The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell.
So good.
So good. She is a marvelous storyteller, but her writing is beautiful and her structure is beautiful and her suspense is beautiful. She's really one of my favorite writers of this genre ever. So I was thrilled to read Lisa's new book.
Agree.
How about you, Robyn?
I recently read my first Louise Candlish novel.
Oh, yeah.
I know she's a big deal, and I'm late to the party, and I was blown away. I read The Other Passenger, and it was interesting. It was all a male voice. I think the whole thing is a male voice, and it was so like charming and twisty and scary and messy. I loved it. And I have to shout out PJ Vernon, Bathhouse. Yeah. Another just page turner, high concept, so cinematic. I really loved that one, and it really stuck with me.
And the thing about those all of those books that we just mentioned is that they're unique, they're original, they're those people who wrote them. The writers took risks on the books.
Yeah.
They're also all solidly good writers. They're not depending on just plot, but they're telling a story beautifully. And I agree with you about PJ and Louise Candlish, who is a genius.
Wow. I'm like, why haven't I been reading her? I've heard her name for years, and this is the first one. I'm doing an event with her, actually, another online event next month with Lisa Jewell and Louise Candlish.
All right, so now my eyes are now green with envy.
Yeah.
I can't wait to come to that and cheer you on.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I got to chat with Lisa maybe last week, and it just blows my mind every time I talk to her that she talks about how she doesn't plot her books, which is it's insane to me because her plots are so like there's so many moving parts and there's so much stuff, and she's like, yeah, I just figured out while I'm writing. I'm like, you're a witch. How do you do this?
Like, how does that work?
Yeah. All right, so I think that is going to just about do it for us this evening. So if you guys have tuned in late, we have been chatting with HANK PHILLIPPI RYAN, whose new book, Her Perfect Life, just came out on Tuesday. And we've been chatting with Robyn Harding, whose new book, The Perfect Family, just came out in August. We have copies of both in the store, so if you haven't gotten them yet, you can order them from murderbooks.com. I've dropped links to those in the comments. If you have them already and you still want to support the story, had a good night tonight, I have also dropped links to the other books that they have mentioned that they had read recently, so you can pick those up. If you missed any part of the chat, once we're done, Facebook and YouTube will archive it. So if you missed it or you want to share it with anybody, you can rewatch it there. while you're there, also check out, as I mentioned, we've chatted with Lisa Jewell. We've done an event with Louise Candlish, PJ Vernon. So there's lots of other great author chats. We actually got to do a chat last fall with Hank and Lee Child and Andrew Child, which was fantastic. That's also up on the YouTube channel. So there's a wealth of stuff out there. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And again, Hank, the idea of you guys just pulling questions out of the bowl is genius. And like, you should patent that because it's just genius.
Oh my goodness, thank you. We had a good time trying it out on you.
Yeah, good.
Yes. That was great. Great.
Well, thank you so much, both of you. Congratulations on the releases of your books, and we will chat with you soon.
Right. See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you.
Thanks.